people keep saying, obviously, phone cameras will never be as good as cinema cameras. Well, I think it's the other way around. I think the cinema camera companies will never be able to compete with Apple in the future. I think Apple have got so much clout and so much kind of, if you added together the value of Canon, Panasonic, Sony, added them all, if they all gang together and formed one big mega company trying and take Apple on, Apple is still 20 times as big as all them put together. So, and they're, whatever they decide to do, if they decide to put bigger sensors, better cameras, all into phones, then, the idea of being able to rock up with just the phone and do everything is, that's the future.
How you doing, Jason?
Cracking as always, Danny. It's a week before Christmas.
It is. It is the week before Christmas. Are you all set?
Every year I do it later and later because online shopping has become so much more accessible. Like I could just, that'll come in 2 days' time. So, but to be fair, like the main gift was I bought my wife festival tickets because I went on a trip to Ireland and I needed to apologize for going on a trip to Ireland, so I bought her festival tickets. But they were cost effective enough to be justified as a Christmas present as well. So I kind of got away with that. So she's just expecting tiny little things now. So I'm winning. What about you?
Yeah, pretty much sorted. Boys they've got all their stuff, so that's all good. Hot Wheels cars for Harry because Hot Wheels are live. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles for Frankie, and like baby stuff for Brody because obviously he doesn't really need anything now. So
Yeah.
And then Kirsty, I've got her. I can say this because she's not going to listen to the pod. She never listens to the podcast anyway. But that mask that Russell wears, the cryo mask. She's been wanting one of those. So
like Iron Man type.
That thing. Oh, it was like something a horror movie. To be honest, I was like, I'm thinking you can't wear that when the
to walk around the house with that, Kirsty. Right?
Kids will have nightmares. But so I got her one of those, which you won't be expecting because she was like, oh, maybe once we're in the new house, you could get me this. So she'll be buzzing with that. So definitely won at Christmas this year, which is good.
Okay, so winning.
Yes,
winning. Yeah, that's always good. And editing wise, we good?
Yeah. We're coming along. It's the usual, just end of year push to Christmas, trying to fit in family Christmas stuff plus editing plus. Obviously, like I said before, we had Brody in the middle of the season, so that has pushed everything back a little bit. But we're making progress week in, week out. That's all that we can do at the minute. So
yeah, good. I feel this is the year where I'm the least stressed about things. I've got everything in order. Everything is just getting finessed, and so it's all pretty good considering all the other stuff that we've been doing. It's a miracle.
Yeah. Well, actually, and then I did get my new iPhone.
Oh, you did?
I got my new iPhone.
Oh,
I wasn't going to get one because I thought there wasn't a massive change from the last. I had the 15 Pro and now I've got the 16 Pro, but I was like, there's not a massive difference here. But then my phone was just being really, really slow and it needed a new battery. So I was like,
yeah,
I'll just get the new one.
Yeah, see, I'm still on the 14, and I was about to upgrade, but then my phone got stolen, so I got a brand new phone, but it was still a 14, so the battery life isn't the problem. But I still want the upgrade because I need all these new features. Because the 14 to the 15 and 16, the 14 to the 16 is a massive difference.
Yeah, 15, 16, not so much.
Yeah,
but because you've got like ProRes RAW and stuff like that,
which is something I definitely do want to be playing about with.
Which would come in handy, I guess, for weddings. But
I think so.
On that note, I think now would be a good time to let you know that we do have a special guest on the pod today who is a man that has been testing iPhones out at weddings and has an abundance of things to talk about here. Mr. Jeff Wood from Jeff Wood Visuals. How you doing, mate?
How you doing, guys?
Yeah,
nice
grand.
To meet you.
You too, mate. You too. Nice to actually put a proper face to the name on a video call and have a bit of a chat, because Jason and I have seen your name pop up quite a bit, certainly as of late, but just generally in conversations about because you've been at this a while, haven't you?
Yeah, about a year. So I was quite late. I wasn't. I'm not like an iPhone kind of like mega fan.
Yeah.
I before I bought this, I had an SE. So, you know, tiny little thing like this, the same phone that my kids have got.
Yeah.
And yeah, to actually be doing this is like a brand new thing for me. I basically decided to bring myself up to date and start doing Instagram.
Okay.
So my first thing was this. I can't even do anything on Instagram because this screen is so small. So I went along to Apple with my girlfriend, and you know, she was so glad that I'm actually getting a real phone. So I just thought, let's just go for the biggest one, the biggest and best one. Let's just go for it.
Yeah.
And so it was just a mega shock when I discovered that there'd been all these technical advancements in the the capabilities. So I was just blown away.
I think that's the first thing that every videographer does is when they get a new phone is immediately go to the camera. It's when they go, oh, even if I'm in the Apple store, I'm like, go to camera. Oh, look at that. That's great.
Yeah, because I think I don't think it was that long ago as well. You could like do it was like 4K slow mo and stuff like that, and then but prior to that it was like 1080p and stuff. So it's came on a long way in a very short space of time. But I guess we'll get into that. First of all, Jeff, for our listeners that don't know who you are, who have been living under a rock, can you give us a little bit of a background about who you are, how long you've been in the industry, and kind of what that journey's looked like?
Yeah, I started back in the end of 2008. I started off on Sony EX1s. I don't know if you remember them.
Yeah.
Probably not old enough.
Yeah, no, I started in 2009, so I was back then too.
Right. They were the business back then. So I thought, oh, I've got to get one of them. And that was my pull into like the whole wedding industry. There was another reason why I wanted one. I won't go into that, that's a rabbit hole. And I thought, well, I need the best video camera out right now, and that was the EX1. And it was so expensive. So I thought, oh, I need to justify this somehow. So I'm going to start shooting the odd wedding.
Yeah.
And it was, I started to research, wedding videos around the world, and I discovered that they've changed. But even back then, I was really inspired by what I saw coming out from people like Ray Roman and Jason McBanower. And yeah, so discovered that it was like the best kind of job I've ever had. Just absolutely loved it. It skyrocketed. I pretty soon noticed the big buzz around the 5D Mark II. So the start of like the DSLR thing.
Yeah.
And I jumped like headfirst into that. I think I shot one, maybe two weddings on both the EX1 and 5D Mark II, and then just decided, sod that, I'm just going to go for it. And we'll probably get into this, but I got a whole load of heat for it. Everyone telling me that you can't rock up with that. It's not professional. Just buy a video camera. Yep.
Oh, really? Was that the chat on even really?
Yeah.
Wow. That's interesting.
Especially in the UK.
So what? So because obviously I only actually started filming. It would have been in 2021. And so I've not seen all that. I've walked right into like mirrorless cameras and stuff. So that was the kind of
you don't know you're born.
Exactly. So at that point it was pure like video cameras. That was how you had to film a wedding. That was the general consensus at the time.
It's weird that I'm hearing the same quotes now about this thing. Things like it's well, they didn't say it's a toy, but it's kind of that kind of thing. It's like, oh, it doesn't have, you can't record more than 12 minutes. It's it's just a toy. You can't record proper audio. It's just a toy.
Yeah.
You can't. When they first came out, you couldn't even shoot varying frame rates. It was 30p or nothing.
Right. Wow.
So yeah, it was a struggle. And when it first came out, you couldn't lock exposure or control exposure, and you had to kind of like get the auto to get it exposed the way you wanted, and then half take the lens off, and it'd lock it. Right. So yeah, it was pretty crazy.
Wow. God. Yeah,
but you know what? I miss them days.
It's so funny, like when you're saying about the audio, I remember having XLR cables going from my camera, putting duct tape down all the way across the speech, like the reception hall, to put a microphone on the table. That's how we used to record audio.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So if someone stood in it, you just hear a little crackle as well. Like it was,
It's wild, isn't it, when you think of it? Because I mean, it's not.
yeah.
It's obviously it's a while ago, but it's not like a huge.
Well, yeah, but that was, I mean, God, I can't remember the dates of that. But yeah, I mean, if you didn't have a camera that had XLR inputs, you know, you weren't recording audio.
Right.
Like
wow.
you obviously people did like they did eventually build like Zoom H1s and stuff like that eventually, but that was kind of the main way to do it. So it's funny hearing that little flashback there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've been filming since weddings since then. So you know, coming to 16 years now. I've loved it all the way through.
So you're now shooting on what is it, A7S3s or FX or?
No, I've sold all my cameras.
Oh, have you?
I've-
Everything's
yeah,
gone.
everything. Yeah, MPB, all in one go.
Wow. So that's it. Just
So-
fully, your kit is now iPhone.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. But I'm in a unique position in that I don't want to go into this too much, but I had a couple of years off
Right.
to fight cancer.
Right.
But I was able to have this break away from it at a point where I was kind of getting really bored and I needed something new. So now I'm reinventing myself and I'm 52. So I'm not, you know, I don't need to make a load of money now. I don't need to, you know, to worry about my future. I'm kind of almost semi-retired. So I've got the freedom to, you know, do shit like this and, you know. So yeah, it was kind of like therapeutic to say, right, the old life is gone. All the Sonys have gone. What shall I do from here? And I looked around and the nicest image I saw online was probably the Lawsons. And I thought, why is their image a little bit nicer than everyone else's? And I can't remember whether I asked them or someone mentioned to me that they're on Canon R5s. And I thought, oh, well, I might get one. And oh yeah, and Pete was nice enough to lend me one of theirs and a couple of lenses. And you know, I thought this is the way, because I missed the Canon glass. You know, I miss the way that it flares, and I miss the way that you can use it for auto and like fully manual, whereas a lot of the Sony glass is, you know, it's not fully manual.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought that was the way, and bought one and shot like a full season of weddings on that. But at the same time, that was kind of like at the same time I was testing out the phone. So I had the R5, and I thought, shall I get a load of these R5s, or shall I borrow some bodies off some friends of mine? And I thought, no, I'm just going to go for it. I'm going to, you know, I'd already taken the phone along to a friend's wedding. James Tracy was shooting, and I asked him, I said, can I come along and just like bring my phone and test it out? And he was like, yeah. And I took it, and it was pretty much a disaster. You know, it was. I was testing out the long lens, I was testing out the wide lens, and it looked terrible. You know, a lot of it looked terrible, and I was fighting it all day, and I thought this isn't going to work. But then when I got back, you know, on the laptop in the studio, I noticed that the wide stuff, I was shooting through an anamorphic lens, one of these little B-script ones.
Yeah.
And that footage was better, you know, with a wide shot that you don't want a shallow depth of field necessarily all the time with a wide shot. And I found that I went along to James's house, and he was editing, and we were like testing out which shots worked in his edit. And yeah, the wide stuff looked great. So I thought, yeah, I'm going to use that for the wide and everything else on the R5. And yeah, shot, you know, a handful of weddings, like a season of weddings, like with that setup. And yeah, and that brings us to something else I started noticing. I think the problem with Canon is it's an amazing image, especially with the R5. It's very soft, and I love that about it. It seems to have a lot of a lot of character and warmth to it. But you can't reframe. You know, it might be 4K, but it's so soft that if you try to reframe just a little bit, it loses everything. Whereas with the phone stuff, it's ridiculously detailed.
Yeah.
I'm not saying sharp. If you shoot correctly with it, it's not over sharp, but it's more detailed than some major cinema cameras, which isn't, it's not what you want necessarily for a wedding. Especially if you're doing close-up face shots. You don't want that detail on skin, but it gives you the opportunity to reframe. So you can. What I do is I add a little bit of Gaussian blur and a lot of grain, and then I'm able to scale a shot with so big, go so far into a shot and reframe, and it still holds up because of the level of detail in there. I fell in love with the opportunity, that opportunity. So I do a lot of shooting, especially in the party stuff, with an anamorphic lens on a gimbal, and as well, all this is happening while I'm getting to grips with making reels. I've never really made reels before.
Yeah.
So I discovered that it was a great advantage to have this ability to reframe, because I want to shoot. I want to use the same clip for a CinemaScope
Yeah.
aspect for a TV, and the same shot for a vertical aspect for socials.
Yeah.
And I found that if you shoot, say, I'd shoot everything in horizontal, and then you could crop in to a. So it's almost like the same shot will double up. It'll work as a great wide for your main edit for the TV, and it'll also work as a tight for socials.
Yeah, workflow, like talking about workflow, that's ideal, because there's like so many shots, even like if you shoot like 6K open gate, like, because we've got that on the pannies. Do you have that? You don't have that?
No.
So I do. No, so you get that little extra bit of width, but you're still not going to be able to fully zoom in to that level of detail. So that's really handy from a workflow point of view, meaning that you don't have to either flip your camera the other way to get some vertical stuff, or you can just use that same shot and not have to worry about it, especially at the wide, because that's kind of what you want, so that you've got most opportunity to reframe something to actually look good as a reel.
Yeah. So is your whole process then with the phone, you're shooting wide on the anamorphic lens all day, and then you're just in post is when you're sort of reframing?
Yeah. It's developed since then, since I started using the tele lenses as well.
Yes, of course, because you
So
can get
at this point,
yeah. Oh,
at that point, I'm only using it for wides.
Right. Okay.
And I think around about that point, I put it out there that I wanted to shoot a wedding only on phones.
Yeah, I remember seeing that.
Just as a bit of fun, bit of an experiment, and just to see. I fully expected it not to work. I just thought it'd be fun. That's why I just want to shoot it for free. So around about this time, I'm noticing the difference between the R5 footage and the phone footage, and I did a series of like Pepsi challenge kind of videos on Instagram, posting like I linked the phone up to the top of the R5 and just walked around the house and shot in the mirror, shot my girlfriend making brew, and and just put them on Instagram just as a non-scientific and a bit of a fun test. And what was really interesting then was around about the range between 80% picking the iPhone and like 90% picking the iPhone.
Wow.
The question was, which image do you prefer?
Yeah.
And I was really surprised. I was hoping that would be the case, because I was liking it, but I was surprised that was the case. Now, it's non-scientific, okay, and I suspect a lot of the reason for this is the level of detail that the phone is picking up is surviving multiple generations of compression.
Yeah.
So by the time it reaches, someone's phone on Instagram, it's got the Instagram compression, it's got my export compression, and it's just holding up more throughout.
Yeah, it's not
You
falling
know?
to bits.
Yeah.
So that, as well as there's always been a problem with Canons that I didn't notice on the Sonys, that they don't handle, although they have a really lovely warm image. You've got to be really careful with the red channel. If you white balance a scene for how it looks, for how the scene looks, it blows the red channel dead easily, and you just end up with this horrible kind of orange skin. And one particular shoot, I noticed that I'd white balanced both the R5 and the phone the same way for this scene in this house. And what I didn't realize was it was a really orangey scene, but to the eye, it didn't look it. And then to the phone, it's worked perfectly well, but the R5 really struggled with it. Now, I could have, if I was shooting only on R5s, then I would have known to foresee this and dialed it right down. But, it's just another thing to consider.
And what kind of settings are you shooting on then on the phone? Is it the ProRes RAW settings?
It's for run and gun, and for like anything on the gimbal, it's H265.
Okay.
And I found this is on the Blackmagic app,
Right. Okay.
so you can shoot H265, and unless you're running along and there's loads and loads of detail, it's gonna hold up. But if I'm doing fake gimbal stuff, you can't do that in the Blackmagic app. You can stick it, if you put it onto the Apple app, the Apple camera app, and put it onto sport mode, then you can use any of the lenses if it's bright enough, and you can run around and shake your hand as much as you want, and it's still silky smooth. It's still like it's on a gimbal. But that only shoots in ProRes 422 HQ.
Right.
So what I did for this test shoot was I'd shoot all day handheld in H264, and then as soon as I wanted to do a fake gimbal shot, I'd flick the lens up, just switch to the Apple camera app, and then do the quick shot, and then flick it back down and switch back again. Now it's those files are ridiculously big, so you can't just shoot all day on that. You can, but I don't want to attach drives to my phone.
Yeah, I was wondering.
And have that problem. So I just use the phone's memory. So yeah, I use H265 all day, and then just any shot like that is pretty quick, like a quick fake gimbal shot. So
Yeah. Interesting. It's the versatility you've got there.
I'm
Just
so
like
fascinated by this.
I know, just being so quick. Because as you know, for instance, if you've got like different lenses, you've got your wide on the hips out of, and you've got your, your tighter there, you're losing seconds, and it probably has happened to all of us, whereby you go to get the shot and you're like, fuck, missed it. But with that, if that's just a quick, up, down or whatever, or just quick change to the different lens, just the versatility you've got there. I think you kind of talked about it in one of you done a talk over Reel, didn't you? For that one that you shot for Spicky from Geordie Shore, that if you had your camera bag with you, you wouldn't have got that footage because you were having log everything about you.
Yeah, there was an opportunity for a lift with the photographer, and there was a film crew there as well, shooting for the E4 thing. And they were in a minibus, and they were like, right, do you want to lift? We've got to get to the venue. And I was like, are you not filming him leaving? Look at the car. He's got a lovely white vintage convertible car, and it's going to look ace. And they're like, oh no, we need to go and set up. Right, okay, guys, right. And then the photographer was like, right, I'm going. And I was like, but you've got, you're the second. You got the main photographer there. And she was like, "Oh no, I can't miss. I need to go. I need to get going." So I said to the best man, "Can I just come with you guys?" And he was like, "Yeah, sure." So yeah, I would have been if I'd have had all my kit, which by the way, would be a gimbal kind of like dangling off one side of my belt with a 14mm on it, and a 7200 on on a body dangling off the other side of the belt, and all my other lenses in the bag, and and it's quite streamlined, but I'm 52 now, and it's pretty heavy. So yeah, I wouldn't have been there. I would have been getting a lift. So yeah, I was there just with the phone and the lens, and yeah, that was kind of the main difference. That I'm just thinking about all the opportunities that I've had throughout my career that I could have taken up.
I'm just thinking of all the opportunities that I've missed.
Yeah.
Like the amount of times, the times I want to go on a bus when the whole wedding party is traveling to the venue, but I have to be at the venue to set up for the ceremony. Yeah, the amount of opportunities that I've missed when I could have been on a bus with a boatload of people that were heading to a venue, and I could actually ask them questions and talk about. I'm incredibly fascinated by this because I could genuinely see myself, like, I've not actually looked into the rig capabilities of what you can actually do with an iPhone, but just when you pulled that rig up there and had the lens, that's fascinating.
That wedding, there was a day when there's the groom party was all doing wine tasting and having a bit of food, and I was invited as a guest. So it was a case of, come and join in, taste the wine, and just be a guest. But so I stuck like the phone in the housing in one pocket and the little lens in the other, and thought, well, if I get an opportunity, I'll just whip it out and shoot. And when I look back at the footage, it's like I had my whole kit. That's So,
but you said you were going to buy 2 more phones, right? So is that to allow you to do multi-camera, or is that just as backup, or like what's the plan with them?
That's purely for the ceremony and speeches. Just have a 3-camera thing of that. But again, I'm thinking now about deliverables, and what people are actually demanding. And when I look at the stat and I see that the speeches have been watched once and the ceremony not even watched.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, shall I change my pack? Shall I change the package? I don't know. If it means I don't even have to worry about that stuff.
Yeah,
I don't know. Well, that's another podcast.
Yeah, because I see those. I mean, I'll just talk briefly on it. I see those stats as well, and ceremony speeches don't have much. The only reason I have a multiple camera angle is so that I can get the reactions handheld, whereas I've always got someone speaking. So because the reactions matter more to me than someone speaking. Although for the film, you need to see someone speaking, and I don't want to sacrifice.
No, that's
I don't want to sacrifice like kneeling down between people to get someone speaking as my solo shot and miss someone crying. That's
absolutely.
So that's where the
more angles you've got, the more rest you can have as well.
Yeah,
it's just more options you've got.
The more rest is true.
It happens all the time, isn't it? Like you set up at your 3 cams or whatever, and then 2 of them are blocked, and thankfully you put that one other one down. So it does the multiple angles save your arse.
And what sort of lens can obviously you've got one attached to your rig just there. What's talk us through the lenses that you've got for it? Now I'm because I'm interested in this.
Right. I keep saying, God, I've said 55mm over and over and over. It's actually 58. Right. So that's 58mm equivalent.
Yeah.
That's by moment. When this date was looming, where I'd offered to shoot this this wedding only on iPhones, I was panicking because I thought I need to get a depth of field adapter, because you can't shoot run and gun, in 24mm all day with an almost infinite depth of field.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, but what's the point? Because it's just going to make it bigger than a camera. So I didn't know what to do. So I was testing all kinds of things, and then it wasn't until I came across this 58mm that was answered. You shove that on, and it's a 58 full frame equivalent, which it's not super tight, but with your ability to crop, it becomes a lot more versatile, and it gives a depth of field similar to an f4 on full frame, so like an f2.8 on Super 35, which is a great depth of field for run and gun. If you want anything shallower, then you've got to get a depth of field adapter. if you want to rely on the computational fake shallow depth of field, the cinematic mode, I'd wait at least 5 years. I don't think that's going to be there anytime soon. The computational power to make that a believable kind of alternative, it's just not there. It's going to be, the phones will have to be 10 times as powerful, I think, to make that usable. It's all right for the odd one, and it's all right for blogging. It's all right for content creators, but if you want to make a professional looking film, then yeah, stay away from that. Now, although that's the one I use, Beast Grip make the best lenses. Now their tightest one, telephoto, is a 1.7 by, so it's it's just not as tight as the Moment. And then I've got 2 Beast Grip anamorphics, so I just thought I'd buy them both just to see which I prefer. There's a 1.33 by anamorphic and a 1.5 by anamorphic. I like them both, so depending on what mood I'm in, But the thing with anamorphics is you can't use in-camera stabilization handheld with anamorphic. Something weird happens to the optics.
Right.
So for that, you've either got to hold it really steady or stick it on a gimbal.
Yeah.
So, there's an argument for, well, if you're going to use a gimbal, you might as well just use a normal camera. So it's not. The jury's out whether it's worth sticking with this anamorphic thing, because it looks amazing on a dance floor. There's one wedding in particular where there's a nice key light. It was pitch black, and then there's just a nice key light coming from behind the couple, and the anamorphic flare on it is so natural and just so beautiful that I thought, wow, this is it. This is what I'm going to do for the dance floor every time. But then there'd be other dance floors where you've not got that, and I think, I've brought my gimbal just to get this, and I'm not getting it. So shall I flog the gimbal as well? I don't know.
The gimbal thing, just in general, is quite a difficult one, because it's like I used to use it all day. Now I prefer the kind of like more handheld look. I then use it situationally, but then it's a faff because you're having to carry it about. For instance, like on the couple shoot, just to get like these 2 shots, but then you still need to carry it the rest of the way, and it's like, is it worth it for these 2 shots? Should I just sack it off? But I do like the shot, so it's like this internal battle of I really just could be doing with like an assistant phone, be just carrying it for me.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that is the absolute epitome of why I'm going down this route.
Yeah.
That kind of that anxiety of like, shall I take that? Shall I take this? I remember like I was standing with the bride and the bridesmaids, and I heard something going on down at the chapel, and I thought, I'll go down there now. And then I thought, right, I'll take this, and shall I take the gimbal as well, which happened to be attached to the top of a like a standalone monopod. I thought, okay, so I'll take it off that so I can take it with me. And I just thought, this is faffy. I'm here all day running around like an idiot, and I'm taking all this stuff with me, not knowing whether I'm going to need it or not. And it's that stress of indecision that I just want to get rid of. And this seems to be doing the trick. It seems to be, if I've got that in my pocket, I can do either.
All right, we'll have more from Jeff right after this break. What is the absolute best way to deliver a wedding film?
In our opinion, there is no better option than VidFlow.
From the features including apps where people can watch it directly on their home screen on their phone,
From the sleekest of interfaces,
customize it completely to your brand colors,
have video backgrounds and gallery music.
allow your couples to watch their films on the big screen at home just like it was intended. VidFlow have kindly given you a 10% discount on the Pro package on vidflow.com.
Use the code TWVP10 at checkout on any of VidFlow's Pro plans.
to receive 10% discount on that Pro plan and change the way you deliver wedding films. Level up your video delivery experience with VidFlow.
We've heard, I guess, are there any other positives here? Apart from obviously like you can trim down your kit to really what fits on you. Aside for the tripods, maybe say, but tripods, I mean, really. You can fit all the kit onto you, essentially, have one bag for your tripods and say, maybe a small kind of satchel or something like that, just to take like your microphones and all the other maybe bits and pieces that you need, battery packs and stuff, if you've got them. Are there any other kind of like positives that you see from it?
Now, this is probably the most interesting question, in that some of the reactions that I've had are so unexpected. In that, like Vicky's wedding, the test shoot wedding, she was so behind it, and she was almost evangelical with it. You know, she was, I guess, because she gets followed around by a film crew everywhere she goes.
Yeah.
She's like, you know, I was having a conversation, and she was saying, like, these people, they've got to realize that they don't need to look like that. You know, they're wearing the big kind of body braces with the things over the top, with like a big Sony, whatever it is, dangling off it.
Intimidating.
And you know, she's flabbergasted that they're doing this. You know, and she's like, you know, this thing, they were shooting in HD for that show.
Really?
You know, they're not even shooting in 4K.
Wow.
And I don't know, it's just, yeah. So her reaction was amazing. You know, she was like, yeah, you're going to change the world. You got to do it. You know, people have to realize. And then one comment on one of the reels I did for her was, oh, that's so nice that it's shot on a phone. It's far less intimidating for you and your guests.
Yeah.
So that kind of thing. But what's really interesting is the subtle things I've noticed, in that I feel like I'm being more taken into the fold of guest status. You know, almost, it's hard to describe, it's hard to explain, but
You're
it's almost
friendly.
like,
They have phones. You have phones. Like,
There's a
there's not an us and them now. You have a phone.
yeah.
It's
yeah,
it is less
that
intimidating.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, you know, you could argue that that's not necessarily a good thing. You know, if you ever sat with the guests when you need a
Have a good
break.
dinner.
Let's not talk about it, Jeff. Let's not talk about it.
I mean, you must be busy. You must be busy this time of year.
As well as awkward as that as well, because they're like, you think it's a really, really good thing, but then like ultimately you end up getting papped at the reject table, and it's like,
Oh yeah, it's always, you know, whatever table you've been on, you're like, you don't know what this says about you.
Yeah.
On this table.
so when did you last speak to the bride and groom? Oh, 15 years ago. Yeah, makes sense.
But, you know, on that subject, I've kind of realized that, you know, if I said to a photographer, right, I'm gonna video this wedding, and I'm gonna be in some of your shots. You know, I'll be careful not to be, but if I'm gonna be in some of your shots, would you rather I look exactly like a guest, dressed like a guest, holding a phone like a guest, standing with the guests, or would you prefer I was dressed all in black with, you know, with a gimbal and
Yeah,
tripods and shit everywhere?
a really good point.
You know, it's
Yeah, because the attire you wear usually has to you have to kind of go more comfortable because of the amount of kit you're looking around. It's not practical,
Yeah.
but that is true. If you have a minimal kit, you're actually,
You could easily just go shirt, trousers.
you're blowing my mind here, Jeff.
and then the last thing
You just cost Jason a whack. He was just talking about a rebrand earlier, and he's like, right, the rebrand's put on hold.
The last thing is two of the weddings I've taken on next year. The fact that I'm shooting on phones has swinged it,
No.
and that was kind of the final kind of like thing that made them decide to go with me.
Right.
So that I didn't expect.
Yeah. Well, it'll be a differentiator. It'll be interesting, won't it? Because it's you're out of the norm, and if you're still able
that's
to
sort of
deliver a good product, then
Yeah, I need to have a conversation and, you know, try and figure out what it is that they're excited about. You know, is it just that it's new? Is it that they don't like cameras? You know, find out. I'll try and find out.
I think as well it's a bit of the way I would look at it would be it's a bit of a conversation starter for them. Do you want my videographers like shooting the whole thing on their iPhone? and people will be like, iPhone. And then if you're able to then back that up, obviously with a great film at the end of it, they'll be like, holy shit, you know? Because that's something I would definitely shout about, you know, if you get delivered like a camera, you know, challenger product essentially that's just as good, and you're like, yeah, that was all shot on an iPhone, like it's a good kind of like conversation starter and an interesting conversation to have, you know?
I think as well, because the word content creator is on the rise, you know, phones at wedding is becoming way more accessible. So if you're someone that's skilled at using a phone to capture a film, there's already the narrative that's actually acceptable
Yeah.
now.
Mm.
So that could have been something to swing it too.
So we've obviously talked there about the positives. What's the limitations?
You need a telephoto lens. Now, for the speeches, for this test shoot, I've ended up just with like a 58mm image, which is it's fine. It looks great. But if I was shooting on my usual kit, I'd have a tight on the person speaking, and I'd have a tight on the reactions. So this is like a safe, boring shot of both.
Mm-hmm.
So I did actually try out the 5x zoom. Is it 5 or 6? I can't remember. But the zoom camera, the telephoto camera in the phone, and yeah, you've got to be careful. It looked fine on the back of the phone. It looked like, I was thinking, oh, this is great. Yeah, I can use this. And then when you get it like on a laptop, it's like, oh, yeah, no, it looks so cheap. It looks terrible.
Yeah.
So that's a limitation. You definitely need, my next purchase was going to be this is a lens by Sandmark. It's about that long, like a telephoto. I think it's like 6x. They just stick on the normal camera, and that apparently I've looked at tests online, and that's great in low light, totally usable. So I'll try that out next. And I wasn't gonna, but I think based on what I've seen on the 28 Years Later trailer, I'm gonna play with a depth of field adapter.
Right. Okay.
They use the Beast Grip depth of field adapters. They've sold out now. Probably because of that, but yeah, I'm gonna, when they come back on the market, I'm definitely gonna get one.
How
of them.
much would
I've
it
still
for
got
one of those?
about $300,
Okay.
something like that. So for someone that's got, and that's EF mount. So for someone that's got a lot of Canon glass, that'd definitely be the way to go to to play around. But you add one of them, and you're back to DSLR size.
Yeah.
So yeah. There's not a great deal of point.
Yeah, you're losing some of the advantages that you've gained. Well, like just generally, like, so when it gets to for instance, like speeches, it's maybe not like terribly well lit as a lot of the UK places, venues aren't, or like dancing and stuff. How does it hold up when it comes to like low light, just generally?
You know what? I've not had a problem yet. As long as you stick to the main camera, the 24mm camera. As long as you stick to that, there's not a problem. And as long as you stick to the Blackmagic app, because in the iPhone camera app, you can't control ISO, so it just
does it.
Yeah,
sit at
I was
whatever.
gonna say, like, I don't have too much experience in the ProRes sort of version of the video, but in the Blackmagic app, I take it you've got complete manual control over the camera. Is that right?
Yes, yeah.
It would just be like that other app that was out that was out before the Blackmagic one. I can't remember. I had it on my phone, but Blackmagic kind of took over and then they stopped updating it. But I think maybe not the front facing one, right? Because the lens is always going to be quite small because it's a peephole, so you might have limitations there. But certainly for the other cameras, the other lenses, sorry, the back, as time progresses, they will potentially catch up to that 24mm lens potentially, I would imagine. Yeah, because they're almost like, they're almost hampered deliberately. The main focus goes in when, because I've watched all of the Apple keynotes, I think, since the original iPhone. So I know it's always, that's where they put the main, specs into it, and the other ones are kind of like extra ones almost. So as time progresses and they realize that people are starting to like use that, I would imagine they'll start bumping those cameras up in terms of like megapixel and stuff like that as well.
Yeah, you know what? Who knows? Who knows what they're going to do? It's I don't know what they're up to be honest. Why are they making cinema level cameras and shoving them in phones? Why are they doing that?
Yeah.
I can't see I can't see what the advantage is other than just to say, yeah, we've done that.
I think it's maybe just
It's
up
weird,
the
it's
level
weird.
of YouTube, because I think obviously you've got so many content creators in the world at home producing stuff, and they've got, you know, a rig set up like we've got currently here. But if every person could do that with a device they hold in their pocket, and they can improve the quality, then, you know, these lenses that they're going to, you know, cinema grade lenses that you can have in your pocket, that there is absolutely a market for that, especially with how much, you know, YouTube is being consumed in the world. So
I guess this kind of nicely brings us on to the next question, which is like, so on, I think historically, and we touched on this before we started the podcast, right? But historically, it's been bigger camera, bigger lens equals better product equals I pay you more money. Yeah. So that's generally how it's went. How does shooting on an iPhone then work in terms of, does that affect the amount that you can charge? Now, we all know, right, it's the end product that you deliver, which is the product. However, there's that perception, right? Because, you know, we've got high-end photographers, high-end videographers out there that, and I mean, it wouldn't be me, but they kick about in a 3-piece tux and like dress shoes all day. Their feet must be absolutely killing them, right? But they do it because it's an image thing, right? Now it's not me, it's not how I would do it, but that's a thing, and we can't get away from that. So how does shooting on an iPhone then affect, for instance, maybe what does it affect what clients are maybe willing to pay because of that image thing? Because there's also the argument of, I charge this much because I have spent X amount on my gear. Now you take that away, is it justifiable then to charge the same?
I think so. There'll always be a section of the market that hire someone because they shoot on red,
Yeah.
you know, or, you know, that kind of thing. I worked with some guys, I won't name any names, some, you know, super high-end States-based videographers that are well in with the very high-end New York planners.
Yeah.
And they're making a fortune, you know, they're shooting on reds. They're dressing like you just described, you know, they're dressing like American wedding guests, you know, with the bow ties and everything, and carrying these reds on gimbals. And there's definitely a market that will be impressed by that. So yeah, there's definitely an argument for that. Especially being as well for that gig. He was very shy of me getting my phone out. You know, he said, "Well, you know, just for the sake of image, can you just use your Canon?" And I was like, okay, no problem. Until he saw the image, and then he was like, "Oh yeah, we'll use that." So he was happy to cut phone footage alongside his Red Epic footage.
Interesting.
Which is, you know.
yeah, I mean, obviously you said there about the cost, the cost of the equipment, but you know, 3 iPhones is still going to set you back like shy of $5,000.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, so the kit isn't actually that much cheaper, especially, you know, if you buy
once you rig it out.
buy three of them as well, and 3 of them, and you know, it's gonna be comparable,
Right.
really.
It's just obviously because everyone has one, it separate you. It's that whole thing when you were saying earlier about being like, you know, essentially you're looking like a guest because you're now on the same level. Everyone has this in their pocket.
Yeah,
You just know how to use it.
I think that part of it totally. I just think that, you know, it's maybe a time thing as well. As time goes on, maybe more people start to adopt it. That maybe people, and that's just I guess maybe a bias that I've got, that I think that people would maybe go, I don't know if I would pay quite as much for it, but
I think that's a worry we've got. I think that's in our minds, you know, and who can blame us? You know, it's
Yeah.
it's certainly something that I considered.
yeah,
But again, because I'm in this unique opportunity, I don't have any pressure. I can just give it a go.
yeah,
You know, I'm not bothered what people, you know, whether I get hired 50 times or 5 times.
Yeah.
You know, it's I'm doing it, you know, for the fun of it. And I like the idea of, you know, a high-end photographer, yeah, they might charge like $80,000. Do they have more expensive cameras? Yeah, they might have a Hasselblad or something, but that's not why they're being hired. They're being
No.
hired because they're an artist.
Mm-hmm.
I like the idea of being hired because of because of vision and creativity. Nothing else. I like that idea. Whether it's going to work or not, I don't know.
Yeah.
Interview me like next year.
I look forward to it.
I'm just
I look
thinking
forward
about sort of limitations now, I guess. In terms of like backing up and stuff, obviously, if this phone was somehow to be damaged on the day or something like that, because that's obviously your memory cards could be protected in a case. You can obviously have double dual card slots for that. I've never thought of iPhone files becoming corrupt, but
You
you
can,
can obviously upload to the cloud.
no, but you can also, because it's got a USB-C port, so you can plug in a storage device. And
Plug in a storage device.
You can transfer over footage if you
Yeah,
wanted to.
I considered those things. I've got a tiny little SSD, but I've not used it because it's you worry about it becoming unplugged halfway through a clip, and you worry about all these things. So I've decided to just use the internal memory, and I have it backing up to the iCloud. You can pay to have, it's slightly more expensive to use the Blackmagic cloud, which is possibly less complicated when it comes to like, I've got all my weddings on my iCloud now. So, if I'm looking through for family pictures, I've got all the weddings on there as well. So I might end up just going through the Blackmagic cloud. But yeah, it's while you're shooting, it's uploading to the cloud.
Yeah.
At the same time, obviously, if you're on a desert island somewhere without any any coverage or any Wi-Fi, you might have a problem. But cross that bridge when it comes to it.
It's
Just make
actually
sure I
more
have like
secure then,
multiple angles.
because you're actually backing your footage up as you go.
Straight to the cloud.
A lot of advantages here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big fan of this.
It's definitely a disruptor though, like to everything, because and it has been, the camera image has been getting, there is no denying it has been getting better and better for quite a long time. But it's interesting just to see someone use it in your line of work that you maybe hadn't expected it to be getting used so soon. And I'm maybe, I think maybe that also is part of the bit where people are getting passionate about it, because it's a case of, I think, because generally up until this point as well, people that have been using iPhones have been deemed as like the content creators, and as we know at the minute, there's some clients are choosing, do I want a videographer or do I want a content creator? And there's like that direct conflict of choice there, because they're viewed as similar. And I think also it won't be very long before photographers are lumped into that as well. And it's like, do we get a photographer and a videographer, or do we just get a content creator? I mean, we've seen it in some cases already. But I think maybe that also is where that kind of passion is kind of like coming from, in terms of obviously like some of the responses that we've seen in some of the Facebook groups, because
it's scary.
it's I guess it's a threat, isn't it? It is a threat, and especially when you've spent all this money on all this gear, and that's the way that you thought things are going to be. But I think you definitely seem like a person, and from what you've said today, that you will try. You're not afraid of change, and I think that it doesn't matter what business or line of business that you're in. Change is going to happen, and if you don't change with the times, you can get left behind sometimes. But I think for me, this conversation, I am not ready to dive into that.
So I get it. Totally.
However, it's the reason why I bought the iPhone 15 Pro at the time was because of like the log footage being able to like match it, and I thought, if I'm stuck, I can use it as another angle. And I think that's where I could see myself using it to complement, for instance, like that tripod, for instance, that would be ideal to just have that on that moment lens, maybe a bit of a tighter shot, and there's not as much it's not going to take up quite as much real estate space, you know, and also it's just another angle on the day that's in my pocket.
Yeah, you
rather
could even
than
use like a
another camera.
Rilipod and just not even be. You could like have an alternative tripod.
Yeah.
Like so that you could put it in unique spaces during the ceremony that weren't disruptive.
Yeah.
Because how annoying is it when people put tripods in front of the front row?
Yeah.
But there's like, it's just, there's so many opportunities with this.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
I think the majority of people like could possibly, you know, best case, just could possibly see it as a way to reduce the anxiety you have.
Yeah.
When you're worried about forgetting all your kit, and you have these anxiety dreams, and think, I've turned up at this wedding and I've forgotten all my cameras. Well,
Yeah.
Because you know,
Yeah.
if you learn how to shoot with the phone, it could save your life.
Yeah.
But no.
Yeah.
You know, like I think rather than being an extra angle, you know, maybe a backup, you know, just not even use it, just have it there and know how to use it, and just think, well, if this breaks, I've got another backup.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I was hired to go and turn up at some corporate shoot where I didn't have the time to explain to them that I'm going to be shooting on iPhones, but you know, don't worry, I'd probably use something else.
Yeah.
You know, it's the main advantages to the iPhone is like being incognito and looking like a wedding guest.
Yeah.
You know, if you don't have that, then I don't really see the point. You know, you could probably do as good, you know, a job. You could probably deliver a video as good, but it wouldn't be worth a hassle of people saying, "What are you doing? Where's your camera?" You know. So you know, it's just tools for jobs, isn't it?
So when it comes to like packages, have your packages then, your wedding packages, have they changed as a result of using the iPhone, or is it just the exact same? You've basically it's just the format in which you're recording that has
Yeah.
changed. Okay.
It's exactly the same.
Mm-hmm.
The full package is like a 1-minute reel, like 3 to 5 minute highlights, like a 15 to 45 minute movie,
Right.
and full ceremony, full speeches.
Super interesting. Love that. I've loved this chat. It's been great. I love it when someone can like go in and just, because I'm kind of saying I'm not necessarily too afraid of change. I just sometimes don't do the research to figure out the changes available. So like this has definitely sparked an interest in me, because I could genuinely see myself using a kit like that, and as long as I got to see what it looked like through the lenses, because I think for me I've just zoomed in on the phone, but of course you're eliminating half the sensor when you do that. So if you just shoot open wide and have a lens there able to capture what the full sensor's seeing, yeah, that just makes perfect sense. Because sometimes I look at my
It just looks crap when you
when you zoom in.
when you're doing the digital zoom.
I think you're just like, nah, mate, Jeff, it's crashed. Yeah, when you zoom in, I think that's what content creators do. They're zooming in and killing their image.
Yeah.
So
Don't do that.
yeah.
Now
And in cinematic mode as well. I think obviously aesthetically, oh yeah, bit of bokeh behind me.
Well,
That's
look,
great.
it does look cool, doesn't it?
It does
But
look cool.
It's
just digital, isn't it?
It looks digital.
Yeah.
You can tell it's the.
It is.
It's,
If they just changed it to not having that kind of like that fake sharpness,
yeah.
then it'd be more usable. But you know, as soon as you switch over to cinematic mode, you've got that ridiculous kind of like just like I say, fake sharpness. And
Yeah.
it's
a
just
filter. It's just
terrible.
a filter.
Yeah.
It's
You can
terrible.
just-
And
The first iteration of it as well was absolutely so shit, because it was like you would just have like there was parts of it. It came a long way, but there would be like parts of your hair or whatever, and it would just blur your bit of your hair that was out and stuff, and it looked so bad.
it'll still do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've not really used it much.
Interesting look though, like talking about content creators, is I think I saw my first content creators reel last night. That shot log. It looked like it,
Right.
and I think I need to hit them up and ask them.
This is the thing.
Because
It's coming. It's like
Yeah.
When they start,
they're working with video and photo every day, and if someone has any ambition, they're going to learn how to do that better, and they're only going to be taken down this route, and they all have the latest phones, so they've got the capabilities. It's just a matter of time.
it is. I think my prediction, and we can take bets. My prediction is we'll all evolve into the same thing. I think the future will be one company, certainly two people, doing the whole thing. So probably marketed as a content creator, but shooting kind of higher level video content and higher level stills content, and replacing the videographer and the stills photographer. I think that's the future. I might be wrong.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when we talked to Ben Journey from the Make Better Wedding Films podcast, and he talked about using, what is it called again?
Oh, it was essentially, it captures your frames from your
So
video.
you basically export all your frames out from Final Cut for the full film, and you just get it. It basically just takes the best frames out. I'll need to have a look at what it was called. So it'll take them out. So then he's now delivering a hybrid product, because obviously photographers have the option to do hybrid and capture that part of the market, but we've not really had an answer to that. So it was more, okay, we only lose out of that scenario in a sense.
Yeah.
Whereas with this, it means that there's like a competition from the other side, I guess,
Yeah.
whereby we could offer stills. Now, obviously, as we know, you're not going to be able to maybe like blow that up onto like a big massive frame or whatever, but for the size of frames that people have got in their houses, it'll do just fine.
Yeah. I think more to the point though, in terms of composition and depth of field, you're doing that completely differently for stills to video. A frame grab always looks like a frame grab because it's composed like for video. So in years to come, when the technology advances more, it'll become more and more convincing, this fake shallow depth field stuff, and you'll be able to decide aperture and where it's focused all in post. And it'll become a thing of like, oh, why would you bake in aperture? That'll be the thing in the future.
Yeah.
And I think this is the final point I wanted to throw in, which I figured out just the other day. People keep saying, obviously, phone cameras will never be as good as cinema cameras. Well, I think it's the other way around. I think the cinema camera companies will never be able to compete with Apple in the future. I think Apple have got so much clout and so much kind of, if you added together the value of Canon, Panasonic, Sony, adding them all, if they all gang together and formed one big mega company trying to take Apple on, Apple is still 20 times as big as all them put together. So, and they're, whatever they decide to do, if they decide to put bigger sensors, better cameras, all into phones, then, the idea of being able to rock up with just the phone and do everything is, that's the future, I think.
Just wait for them to release a camera edition iPhone, like lose some capabilities, but have more camera capabilities.
Be a bigger phone.
Yeah.
Be a bigger phone, but you've got a bigger sensor. That was the reason why I wanted the Max for forever, because obviously it had the bigger sensor and stuff, and it had the better stabilization for the actual sensor itself. But just generally, I just wanted a smaller phone because it is quite bulky. But yeah, no, it's
100%.
yeah, super interesting, and it's a great point. But that, no, I mean, you are right. They are so big, and they can just put, because I think that they're so big just on their own, with their own internal teams that can do everything, where the other camera companies are kind of fighting for a piece of the pie.
I mean, it's not because they're better camera manufacturers, it's because obviously the iPhone is utilized by over half the population of the world. So there's a reason that they're bigger, but they have the capabilities to do whatever they want. Not just in terms of camera capabilities, but like what else does an iPhone do? The point is made. They can do anything they want. Phones, speakers, anything they want to do. They've got the capability.
Thought to myself, why don't they just come out with a cinema camera? Just there's the Apple cinema camera. It'll certainly be like better received by our community.
I feel like with every
but
Apple
no, they wouldn't
product,
get.
Every Apple product
wouldn't get
has
as many
to serve
sales,
a large
which
population. I think that's the problem. They made a watch because everyone needs a watch. They made earphones because everyone needs earphones. Computers. It's not just editors. It's not just mainly creatives, but it's
So they're going to make
everyone.
they're going to make more money putting a cinema camera into the phone than they would making an actual cinema camera.
Yeah.
So that's why they're doing it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They just need to have a sub business that's not called Apple. Just like fund that. If that's what but their passion isn't necessarily cinematography. Obviously, they know a large portion of their user base is into that. But yeah, it's fascinating. Obviously, as the technology grows in the net, I mean, where we're going to be in 10 years' time, it's
Wild.
Although I won't be holding a bloody gimbal when I'm close to 50. I'm not doing that anymore.
I think at some point, to be honest, the stabilization will get that good that the gimbals are redundant. I know, because it's almost like on the Panasonic, it's not quite there, but like obviously, which has been known for its stabilization. Like I've shot a full day and tried to do like gimbal-esque shots and like walking shots, and there's like maybe like certain artifacts here and there that will pop up, but for the most part, you can get away with it. And that's now. Imagine what that would be like in another like 10 years or whatever. I think at some point gimbals will go. You've seen quite a change over the since 2008 when you first started. What advice would you give to kind of like aspiring kind of filmmakers wanting to get into this as a career now, as someone who's been in it for quite a while?
Oh God. That's a really difficult question because it's changing so rapidly. And I'm kind of, contrary to what I've just said, I'm kind of old school. I think, well, I'll tell you what my biggest regret is, and that is ignoring things like Instagram. I thought that was a flash in the pan. I thought, well, why would any videographer be on there? And that was to my peril. So I'd say, yeah, just keep abreast of how the world is going to be. Always to quote, I can't remember who said it. Someone from Apple, anyway. Skate to where the puck is going to be. Sorry, can you edit that out? So corny.
That's saying, I think I'll use that. Yeah, it makes sense. Try and get the position where, the attention is going. That makes sense. Yeah.
And then the our final one, which we like to ask all our guests, is your biggest balls up at a wedding.
There was a small one quite recently where it was a wedding at a really nice house, and there was a chap who seemed quite a bit older than everyone else. He was pottering around and like mowing the lawn at one point, and I couldn't decide whether he was like the gardener or whatever. Sorry, that's girlfriend making a cup of water. And I went up to him and I said, "Hi, are you the father of the bride?" He was like, "I'm the groom." I was just like, oh, I just wanted the world to swallow me. I decided then, right, I'm just going to stop. I've just reached that kind of like level of idiocy. Like I can't be allowed out in public anymore. But
man.
have you ever felt like you just want to wander into the wilderness? No, never.
Yeah,
be
usually
seen
at
again.
weddings, to be fair.
Super interesting chat today, Jeff. Thanks so much for coming on. And yeah,
Thanks for having
even
me.
more interesting that you have sold all your kit, and this is it. You're embracing the Nomad iPhone setup, and I love it. And I think it's really inspiring, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I think we will speak to you again in a year's time or sooner.
I might text you tonight.
And see about getting you back on, and we can talk about what your year has been like. But
I
yeah,
look forward to it.
Yeah, that'd be good.
thank you so much for coming on. One thing that would be good, actually, just whilst I think of it, is if we can put in the show notes a list of all the gear that you've used. Would you be able to send us some links to that as well? Sweet.
So also, how can people get in touch with you if they want to find out more about this, either on socials or on your website?
I guess hit me up on Instagram at jeffwoodvisuals.com. Sorry, I always say that. That's my age. At jeffwoodvisuals.
Okay.
Amazing.
Cool. Perfect. Your website is gfvisuals.com though. Yeah.
Yes, my old-fashioned website.
Okay. Yeah.
Amazing.
No, it's nice because you've got some of the stuff on there as well already, don't you? So it's we're looking at it. It's nice. Perfect. Well, that has been a super interesting episode today, and yeah, I can't wait to get this out in the open. But for now, I've been Danny.
I've been Jace.
I've been Jeff.
That's been that Wedding Videographer podcast. See you next week.
Sweet.